Okay, I think we're ready to go. It's time to discuss the most awaited discussion. Navigating data privacy regulations. First, I want to welcome back to the stage Steve Lok, coming back up, Senior Director Martech from Bain Company. Feel free to applaud. Yes, he's excellent. He's a great host and presenter. Come on up. He's Senior Director Martech from Bain Company to moderate this panel. The panel members include Khulood Abdulla Alsuwaidi. She is currently working as Head of Smart Data Section in the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, Dubai. A little applause for Khulood. Thank you. She's Chairman of the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure Youth Council. She's passionate about learning what's new in the world of data and preserving the environment. Also here is Peter Riz, Chief Information Officer at OSN. Coming up, Peter, please. Warm welcome for Peter. He's got over 20 years of premium pay television and OTT experience within the Middle East and Europe with a focus in digital transformation. At OSN, he leads both the broadcasting and streaming technology strategy and execution. Yes, Umesh Moolchandani, come on up, Umesh, Chief Information Officer, Dasmal Group, a recognized technology leader known for formulating and shaping the requisite strategy vision to achieve business goals. He did not get an applause. I need Umesh to have a little applause. Thank you. He offers a unique blend of executive acumen, high-performance team building, and IT solutions development, accredited with strong ROI and operational improvement at Dasmal Group. And with that, take it away, panel.
Thanks so much, Brent. Really excited to actually help close out our content today from the last 2 days by talking to these guys here. Today we're going to talk about and get some thoughts on data privacy in general. We're going to look at how to actually understand some of the new data privacy laws and protections. Lots of folks have talked about it over the last 2 days, both globally and in the region. We also want to look at what's driving consumer demands around trustworthiness and transparency, around the use of personal data, and generally how we adapt to this kind of changing landscape that's here. So, Peter, could I start with you?
Sure.
Absolutely. So you've spent lots of years in the media and entertainment space, particularly in streaming across the web, which I always think is one of the coolest things you can do. HBO Europe. You've spent time in Saudi Telecom as well, just all over media landscape. So I want to ask you, some of the latest news that I care about is Google is delayed yet another year, at least a year, right? At least a year, what's happening with the deprecation of third-party cookies. So, where are we now? Because the first time this came around, I saw companies go out of business, because they were so freaked out by it. But now I kind of see barely a peep. Do you think that this is a symptom of Google, crying wolf, too many times? Do people even care anymore? Do you care anymore?
The first thoughts about the question that I hope we are not the sheep in the story, if you see the crying wolf. Listen, my view is that we should care about this, and we don't need to care about this that much. We should care about the depreciation of the third-party cookies. That's no question. But if you see it from a broader perspective, what's really happening? Google not block marketers and publishers to collect and use the necessary information and do cross-site cooperation and build a 360 profile of the user. They just change the way how we do it. So from that point of view, for me, it's like a change, the continuous change what you have in the SEO process. So if you are old enough and have enough time in this industry, remember that it was a way of doing the SEO optimization, just putting some hidden text to the bottom of the page to cheat the SEO engine. So everything is evolved, and Google decided to put a little more control how we do how we collect the data and how we use the data. One reason of that, of course, is protecting the customers and the customer data.
Of course.
The other reason is, and I think that's the main reason, and that's why Google is not in a hurry. They want to do it on a proper way, because that's forced us, and that's why I say we are not the sheep, hopefully, in the story, to share more and more data with Google. So, and in my view, is a little bit part of the story to move from the pixel to the event tracking and advertising Firebase and Firebase easy integration. So, in the background, Google and the big giants, they move to the next level of the AI and the machine learning. They also introduce emotion and AI and all these things. And these platforms hungry for data, good quality, controlled data. So that's one of the reasons, in my view, in the background why Apple made this step earlier and why Google sooner or later will depreciate the third-party cookies. But of course, you will have the privacy sandbox and you will have the different option to do your job, and it's also open opportunities for a lot of smaller and bigger companies to help us to do the necessary transformation. All this announcement and postpone an announcement, if you remember what happened with the Silverlight, what happened with the Flash depreciation in the Google browser, it's in Chrome, it was the same story. They want to do it on the right way. They want to give enough time everyone to do the necessary changes. Use this 1 year to do a better preparation, so be smart like Google and understand what is the opportunity, how can you. In the last 2 days, we just hear personalization, data, collect the zero-party, first-party, third-party data, put it to the single system. This is a reality now. So if you go to the floor and meet with the vendors, they can give you some good solution for that. So let's use this time and
Do you think a year is enough?
Should be, I think, yes. It's depend how do you see this whole story. If you want this is the Darwinian view of everything. Yeah, if not the smartest, not the fastest, not the strongest will survive, but the one who really can adopt. So I think a year is enough if we have a strategy how to manage this change and adaptation, and it will depreciate many things, not just the cookies, but the business practices, ownership of the data, how we interact with the customers. My warning sign is that this is just the beginning of something. And maybe it's a different conference and a different panel, but if you see what will happen if we put blockchain to the advertisement and all these things, that would be a much bigger shock for the market and for the marketers.
Khulood and Umesh, I see you nodding. Do you have any comments to that?
Maybe Peter talk about how Google and marketing perspective. I'm from governmental perspective. We have rules, we have policies, we have strategies that we should follow. And we should work in how to secure the data, how to have a lot of the data. At the same time, we should guarantee that we should secure it. Maybe Peter talk about we have a threat that Google have a lot of data, and it is maybe personal data. It is about credit card, money, finance, and I'm thinking a little bit of money, that the most challenging thing in the world. So yes, it is a threat, and but if we think in other way, what should we do? We have to go with the trend. We have to go with the going to automizing everything. So it is an opportunity and a threat at the same time, unfortunately, yes.
Well, Khulood, actually, if I can ask you directly, because let's kind of go regional. You have a lens on the UAE region. As the head of smart data at the UAE Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, I've noticed, that you have a lot of programs that are really driven by a data and digital enablement for citizens.
Yes.
And one of these really large pillars there is actually personal data privacy.
Yes.
You know, and as you mentioned, you know, from a government perspective, it's actually quite interesting. I wanted to ask you, you know, with the new personal data protection law, I don't know if you helped make it, but you know, now it's new. So how has it affected these important initiatives that you're running now?
As you know, as we in Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, the main or the core business of our ministry is to serve the people. We have housing section, we have asset section, roads, the federal roads, the maybe the assets that schools, hospitals. So all of these related to the people. If we will talk about the data, we start with the data, that manual data and Excel sheets, and now we're reaching to the smart data that we integrate with other entities, so we can reduce the timing of serving the people. As you know, UAE government have a goal that the customer should be satisfied, should be not coming by himself, he finish everything with one click. So integration with other entities help us to reduce the timing and the effort for any customer. If we will talk about the protection of the data, maybe in the government in general, we have, as I say, we have some rules that we should follow. We have some strategy we should follow. There are some SLA and NDA between us and the customers that we cannot use the data customer before we have a permission. Or we cannot change any data before also the permission. So it is a connection between the government and the people, but the goal is to protect the data of all of our customers, citizens or non-citizens, and ensure that all of the people are satisfied with our services.
Just one little note that earlier someone on some of the panel asked that give us an organization who provide a really good customer experience. So I think UAE government is one of the one. Yes. If you see it, what's happened during the pandemic, what happened during the recent floods, and what's happening in the e-governments, I think this is a really, really strong and powerful use case. How can we use the data and how can we manage the personal information on a secure way? So I think that's I always see Dubai a little bit as a proof of concept of the future of the cities and the future how we will live in the big cities. Right. And I hope other cities will copy soon. Yes,
according to COVID and the era of COVID, as we know, all of us were sitting in homes, no one goes out, and we use the GIS data that we have a lot of assets in all of the Emirates, and we use it for the laborers. As we know, the laborers are having some housing, but it is crowded. There is a lot of number in small places. So we use our assets, the schools, and some assets that we can be used for hosting these laborers till the end of the pandemic and end of the quarantine time.
You know, from a government perspective, I think it's so interesting to actually see from the public sector what that looks like. Because I think we talk about it commercially a lot. So speaking of commercially, I actually wanted to ask Umesh, you know, to look at it. You're a CIO, you know, at Bain Dasmal Group, and you know, from a commercial perspective, what does this local, regional movement, you know, in this personal data protection regulation mean for you? What have you seen actually from that impact?
I I think most of the organizations, whether it is private organizations or government entities, they are moving towards data-driven organizations. So data is the utmost important asset which they are going to have in the near future and beyond that. Now, a few years back, we had a regulations of GDPR which was released for European Union, where and we believe that this is the strictest, most strict law they had released to protect the privacy of the data of their citizens, whether those citizens are inside the European Union or they are outside of the European Union. So, considering that law, the other countries' laws should be up to that level to cope up with the regulations of GDPR, because that comes to a gold standard of the regulations when we talk about data protection and data privacy. So, all other countries have started to make more provisions in their regulations and made more stricter regulations to come to the level of GDPR. And a few months back, UAE also has started its own data protection law, which encourages those strict provisions to come to the level of GDPR. Now, I think that is a great move when it comes to data protection and data privacy, because it will instill the trust into the organizations which are either originating in UAE or which are coming from outside of UAE for the investment purpose. That is one part. Second part is these executive regulations are still in very early stages, and there will be some maturity required from all parties, whether it is from the organizations, private organizations, or from government part, to come to that level where they come to a level where they go to the privacy first approach of the data, because that is the must for coming years in this digital transformation era, because some of the studies have reported that around the year 2025 there would be employees and people will be working with data at each and every stage. They will be interacting more with the data in every part of their decision making. So this I believe is a ongoing process. This is a journey which has started in the right direction, and data privacy is going to go much beyond from here, and there would be stricter regulations for complete data governance life cycle, whether it is data acquisition, then processing of data, storing of data, and then after that you need to there is an end of the life cycle where after that you have to discard the data also. So these parts should be regulated with the regulatory body, and I think that is a great step towards that.
The GDPR piece is, every time I hear it, my ears bleed a little bit, because we talk about it so much. But also, I think, like Peter, I know you also did a GDPR related transformation. I did that, when I was at The Economist as well, and that was, fun and also terrifying, at the same time.
Yeah, I was lucky to introduce GDPR back in time in Europe for HBO in Scandinavia and Central Europe. So GDPR is a challenge from technical point of view, but the real challenge is from organization point of view. That's my experience. Who is the owner of the process? Most of the companies risk averse. So they say, okay, legal team or some legal consultancy company help us to navigate through GDPR. My first advice, sit down with your legal team and sit down with the GDPR or the data privacy consultancy company and spend the time and educate them. How do you do the business? How do you collect the data? how do you use the data, how can you anonymize the data if necessary, how can you interlink the data with some unique keys which not allow the different partners to see the full amount of data, but who is entitled and who has a good reason to use the different section of the data is able to access the data. When we first designed the first GDPR compliant landing page and subscription funnel for HBO in Nordic, there was 15 checkbox on it to give 15 separated consent, ask the user to do it, and there was opt-out by default, all of them. That was designed by the legal consultancy company based on the study what we created about the data, how many tools we use. If you remember earlier in one of the presentations, you see that 40-something different tools you integrate to your sign-up funnel and to your digital product to track all the user activities. Nothing wrong to collect the data from the customer. The GDPR, and that's a fundamental understanding we need to understand. The GDPR didn't say that you cannot collect the data or you cannot use the data. First, you should give an option to the user to opt out from these things. Second, the user should have the right and the opportunity to understand why do you collect the data, and you should be a little controlled how to manage the data. But if you have a legitimate use case, and you can give a little more information that I need this data to improve the user experience. Okay, how? Why? Why this data? Who will process the data on behalf of you? You share a lot of data with third-party companies who store somewhere in the cloud. Okay, where they store it. The good news is, based on the lesson what we learned from the European GDPR implementation, even the tech companies, the cloud companies, developed a lot of good solutions that give us the opportunity to see and use the cloud as a whole, but keep and store some of the local data which required by the local regulation in the country, but still give all the opportunity for the tech teams and the marketing teams to use the data. So this is something we need to learn a little bit.
And so 3-4 years on already, we still have incongruous meeting of those standards, right? Yeah. Even though we've actually had them. So I actually want to kind of take that 3 years and now think about 3 years later. In 2025, on this stage, of course, you know, ViFest will still be here. What do you think we're going to be talking about on this stage in 3 years talking about data and data privacy?
So if I will start, maybe from also governmental perspective, that the UAE always seek for number one. About the data, I think we will not talking about the manual data anymore. We only will talk about AI, Internet of Things, machine learning. But I hope that we will be here, not other machines will be there. So I think, yes, the data will... Also, there is a concept that the data is the future oil because of the importance of the data nowadays. So it calls the future oil, how the world will depend on data. Yes.
Umesh?
So I think this has gone beyond that of having a future oil, because oil prices are still going down sometimes, but it is going to be a diamond, platinum level of asset which organization would be having to monetize the value from the data and see the insights and do the real-time processing and decision making based on the data. It has already started, but I think it is going to be improved further, where all the data is collected from various streams, whether it is a lot of sensors are there, a lot of apps are collecting the data using AI tools, or manually you collect the data. So all these streams to be joined together and real-time data processing. So that would be the real data-driven decision making when you when you ingest the data from all kinds of streams and do the real-time processing and make the decisions based on that.
So Peter,
I hope you will not ask.
Will we be here as human beings in 3 years?
Yeah, I'll definitely be the oldest in the room. Maybe I'm the oldest today, I feel that. I'm happy to see that many young, talented people here. So I hope you will not ask, okay, what's my opinion about the depreciation of the third-party cookies postponed one another year, yeah? As I mentioned earlier, I really believe we will have more discussion about the blockchains and the NFTs. If you see, why do we have advertisement at all, digital advertisement over the internet? There are many reasons, but two main reasons. One is to match the supply and the demand. That part will not really change too much by the blockchain and the NFTs. But the other reason is to give the option to the publishers to monetize their services. So that's when I believe the costless microtransaction managed by the blockchain will change. And that will affect all the marketers. If you want to taste a little bit the future, what does it mean if we use blockchain, and how can we control and involve the users and give the opportunity to the users to directly monetize their attention? Let's Google the basic attention token and the Brave browser. They started to do something. This is just a very small experiment, but it's open a different future. I really believe it. So I hope we will discuss it, that we generate the first $1 billion in a startup using a single blockchain which provide a consent management platform for all the
Someone's got to figure it out still, right?
Sure.
I really want to thank you for your time. Khulood, Peter, Umesh, thank you for the conversation today, and thank you everyone here for listening to the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Big round of applause for the panel. Thank you. I wish we had time for questions. Unfortunately, we don't. But grab these guys outside if you do have any questions. And big round of applause for all of our presenters, panelists. Thank you so much.